Welcome to our second episode of Whose Move Is This? Today, we'll be talking about Dunearn House, located at District 11. Alright, there are 380 units to this project. However, there's only 60% car park lots.
Huh? People who buy Dunearn House, usually they will drive this address at Bukit Timah. So only 60%? Why?
Yeah, so I think this is actually the first residential that's going to be launched as part of the Turf City transformation.
Right.
So this is meant to be a car light zone in line with our government's planning.
Car light zone, but that means, is there any MRT? Because car light, if there's no amenities, then...
Exactly. So it's only 4 minutes walk to 6th Avenue MRT, and it's located on the downtown line. So 4 minutes is really near, right? It's like literally next door.
And it's downtown line, the blue line.
Correct.
What is a good line?
And there will be another MRT station. It will be a 7 minutes walk to the future Cross Island line, the light green color line.
Right.
That will be the Turf City MRT station.
Wow.
So you actually have a 10 minutes walk to the Turf City neighborhood.
Wow, so if I'm not wrong, you're saying that Dunearn House is sandwiched in between two major lines. One is the downtown line and the Cross Island line.
That's correct.
So that's good, yeah.
The convenience and the accessibility is definitely there.
Yeah.
That's why car light zone.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I won't need a car already by then to go to even Changi Airport, right? With the
Yes, it will even
line.
bring you all the way to Changi Airport.
Great.
Terminal 5.
T5,
the new
one.
terminal, that's right.
That's nice. So, if I'm not wrong, actually, Dunearn House, when will be completed? Is it very close to almost T5? I think T5 is also 2030, 2031.
The expected TOP would be the last quarter of 2030.
Oh, okay. Not that bad. Yeah. I think that's good. Today, this episode, we have the 5 key players as usual. That's why we have this Whose Move Is This? So, the number 1 is the developer.
Yeah.
Second is the buyers. Third is the government. The fourth is the plot next door. Who are your competitors? And the last one, which is the most important, is the clock. So I think the first time that we can talk is actually the developer first. What is the influence of the developer? What are they doing? What are they moving in terms of chess piece? Right?
Yeah, that's right. All right, we're going to start off with the first key player, the developer.
Yes.
Right. So Dunearn House was actually acquired at a 1410 per square foot per plot ratio by Fraser, CSC Land and CQC.
Oh, big players, very big players. Yeah.
And this is actually cheaper than the next plot of land by 15%. So the plot next door, the developers are Wing Tai and Metro. They actually paid 1625 per square foot per plot ratio.
Right.
So that's about $215 more than Dunearn House.
I see. So in that case, do you feel this is a very good advantage for Dunearn House?
So I guess for Dunearn House, the developers can either price it comparatively to the plot next door since they have already paid higher, or they can actually pass on the cost savings to the buyers instead. You know, this being the first private residential launch within the Swiss Club landed enclave in 33 years. The first mover advantage as part of the Turf City transformation plan. So I think what the developer did is that they actually marketed it very attractively.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, so basically, wow, it's starting from 2799. Isn't it a price very similar to a RCR?
Correct.
But this is a CCR address.
Exactly.
So I guess the gap has pretty much narrowed right now for Dunearn House.
Definitely. So in today's context, consumer can get a CCR product, especially a prestigious Bukit Timah address for a RCR price tag. Because other plots of land like Kallang Close, Tanjong Ru, Dover Place, the land already costs way more than Dunearn House.
Dunearn House, right?
And these are all located in RCR.
So I believe, like you mentioned just now, the starting from price is 2799, right?
That's right.
This is really attractive, but I feel that at the same time, we also need to see like the stacks, the unit facings, right? And some more
the floor plans.
Yeah, what kind of floor plans are there?
And the actual launch day price.
Right. Yes, the actual launch price of the rest of the stacks also. Yes, correct, true.
All right, so we're going to go into the second key player, the government.
The government.
Dunearn House is the first private residential that's going to be launched as part of the Turf City Transformation Master Plan.
Right.
All right. And the government is actually planning to put in 15,000 to 20,000 of new homes over there.
Right. So what you mean is right now they are the first mover advantage.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean wouldn't they be enduring all the construction sound and all the noises from there?
You're right about that. So the thing about transformation is that whether people actually have the patience for it, being the first mover advantage, meaning that you are actually the first one to enter into that area. However, by the time your house is complete, everything may not be exactly ready yet because this Turf City transformation is actually going to take decades.
That's why, I see.
Yeah. So actually government transformation, it creates value for the people, but people need to understand whether do they actually have the patience for it. Is it, whether they can actually tahan for a short period of time for the long-term potential.
For the long-term planning.
Alright, so for people who actually buy into Dunearn House, if they actually want to enjoy the completion of the transformation, they might actually have to hold more than one cycle of the seller stamp duty period.
Right. Okay, that sounds fair. I mean, at least they can enjoy after that the completion.
Whether they can actually, sacrifice the short-term inconvenience for the long-term gain.
For the long-term gains, yeah, true enough.
Alright, so we'll move on to the third key player, the buyer. So in this buyer segment, we actually identified 4 different groups of buyer. Number 1 is the lifestyle owner-occupier group. Alright, so this is the group of buyers that actually has an aspiration to buy into a Bukit Timah address. And of course, they want to be close to established prestigious schools from primary school all the way to tertiary.
Oh, but wait a minute. Okay, Dunearn House doesn't have any primary schools within 1 kilometer, right?
Alright, so they actually did not market themselves within 1 kilometer to the prestigious school. Alright, but as we all know, along Bukit Timah, we are surrounded by so many established schools.
Oh, okay.
There may be a possibility that Methodist Girls' School would be 1 kilometer, 1 kilometer away from Dunearn House.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Because it's very close.
Correct. So, however, the developer actually did not promise that Dunearn House would be within 1 kilometer to MGS. So, that's the part that they did not actually price in the school address in their indicative price.
I see. So that means the price is really quite attractive.
Imagine that it is within 1 kilometer, like a confirmative 1 kilometer school address. I don't think they would price the starting price so attractively,
yeah,
right?
in the RCR price, yeah. So I cannot imagine. So what if they really approve and Dunearn House becomes a 1 kilometer radius of MGS? What will happen?
Then congratulations to the people who bought into Dunearn House.
All right. Yeah, true. With a safe entry price. I think that makes sense. Yeah. So for buyer 2 or buyer B, actually it's the HDB upgraders, right?
Yeah.
So this buyer may be attracted to their starting price, okay? But actually you could face a very large jump from the 2-bedder to the 3-bedder.
Yeah.
So I can see for the 2-bedder it's 1.75 million, but for a starting price of a 3-bedder it's
almost 2.6.
Almost 2.6. That's a big jump of almost a mil, almost 1.1 mil. Yeah. So this is a question for the HDB upgraders. It's, are we buying an appropriate size home? Okay. Or am I compromising on the space just to get the Bukit Timah address? So moving to the third buyer, which is the buyer C, the investors. Okay. Investors, you need to ask yourself, who are your future tenants, right? And what kind of rent realistically can support the purchase price? And also like the construction, as we mentioned earlier, and the future supplies, how does it even affect the rental period? Yeah.
So, Melvin, do you know that in the last 12 months, within 2 kilometers to 6th Avenue MRT, there are actually at least 2,400 units that were being rented?
Wow. Okay, that is really quite a lot.
Yeah.
Volume.
Correct. And the average rental for a two-bedder, it's about 4,000 to 5,000. That is an average for two-bedders. And for three-bedders, the average is at least 7,000 all the way up to the highest I see here is about 7.8K.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Exactly. And as for the four bedrooms, right, it can even go up to $10,000.
Wow, okay. And it's really transacted, right? The
That
rental.
is correct. These are already transactions.
Wow.
All right. So actually, a lot of people would rent into Bukit Timah area for the schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though maybe some projects may not have the 1 kilometer address to those established schools, that is not the only condition for their kids to actually enter into the primary school, because there are actually a lot of conditions, right? There are like different phases, like I think if you have siblings who are in the same school, and then you have a higher chance of entering the school, or if your parents is like the alumni or parent volunteer. So you don't necessarily need the 1 kilometer school address. I think the key thing here is that you have the proximity to all these established schools. Imagine you don't have to spend like 15 to 20 minutes to get to the school.
Yeah,
It's like just a 5 minutes drive away. Alright, so now we have the fourth group of buyer, the existing people who are actually living in Bukit Timah itself.
Right.
Alright, so this group of buyer, they may be less price sensitive because they are already familiar with that area. So these are the buyers who are buying for their children, grandchildren, right sizing, or they actually want to live closer to their family in that area. However, they will be more concerned about the quality and the efficiency of the layout.
Right.
And the good thing about this project is that they are all using APCS method, meaning the walls are all hackable, meaning flexibility to the layout.
Okay,
so
that's
that
good.
is a plus point.
Yeah. So Susanna, whose move is this? I mean, the buyers already have the buyer's guide, right? The price guide. And also the neighboring land benchmark has already been set. And the government Turf City plans is really in front of them.
Yeah, so I think different group of buyers are actually completely seeing a different kind of boards. So it really depends if you are buying it for your own stay, whether you actually have that patience to wait for the transformation to be fully completed. Or if you're an investor, whether you are buying in knowing that you can actually get a good rental yield and ensure that, somebody is always renting it from you, so there's no vacancy. Or if it belongs to the HDB upgrader, are you actually stretching yourself, compromising for a smaller space just for the postal code?
So I'm quite curious. So what would be the biggest concern for you the most?
I think the biggest concern for me would be stretching for a unit that is too small. All right. So I think that a good project may not necessarily always be good for everybody. So it depends on which group of buyer you fall into.
So now we have the fourth player, which is the plot next door. Okay. So the plot next door, which is the Wing Tai, has made a loud move. They are actually 15%. They bidded 15% more than Dunearn House, and they created a new benchmark.
Exactly, but I think that this validates the location itself, but it doesn't mean that it will give Dunearn House an immediate 15% upside bias.
Okay.
All right, the plot next door may have more beautiful layouts, better quality products. And the thing about the plot next door is that they actually gonna have like commercial shops at the first floor. So they will have like supermarket and a childcare center. So these may be very attractive for the people who are actually buying the plot next door.
But surely, right, if the plot next door, the pricing is a bit higher, then that doesn't mean that Dunearn House has some price protection?
Yes, it does give Dunearn House a very strong referencing point.
Right.
But a strong referencing point doesn't always guarantee a capital appreciation, right?
I agree. So it will mean that it raises the floor, but it also raises the standard.
Exactly.
So the fifth mover, which is the clock. And I think there are four parts of the clock. First one would be the developer sales clock, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, for Dunearn House, there's only 380 units. this developer, the risk is a bit different from a mega development about like, let's say about 1,000 home, right?
Yep. All right, then we have the second clock, which is the Turf City Development Clock. All right, so people who are buying into Dunearn House who actually hold the place for about one SSD cycle, compared to someone who is actually holding it for about 3 to 4 cycles, will experience different things. So URA actually, they foresee that this transformation will take at least 2 to 3 decades.
2 to 3 decades.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So for buyers who actually hold for one SSD cycle, they may experience constant construction noise, incomplete amenities. However, for people who hold for more SSD cycles, they might have a place of identity and more amenities.
So for the number 3 of the clock, it's the buyer's life stage clock.
So what do you mean by the buyer's life stage clock, Melvin?
The buyer life stage clock, it means like, for example, if you're already planning for retirement, this might be a nice project that you like, but that being said, because of the loan tenure, might be a bit of mismatch. Or if you need something that it's immediate occupancy, but that being said, for this Dunearn House, you probably have to wait, 3 years at least? Yeah, so this is the thing that my interpretation is, this is maybe a project that you understand very well, but at the same time also, it may not
be suitable for you at this point of time.
Yeah.
Because I guess, all of us have different stages of life, and at different stages of life, your needs are different as well, right?
Exactly.
All right, so we have the fourth clock, the competition clock. Dunearn House being the first project that's going to be launched there, they may potentially benefit from the higher benchmark set by the other projects that we're going to be launched there. We have already seen like the plot next door is already more expensive, right? Yeah, so but this also means that the later projects may potentially get more visibility, in the sense whereby if it takes a longer for them to be launched, maybe more amenities would already be ready for them.
So Susanna, whose move is this now?
I think for the very patient owner-occupier, it is the buyer's move. However, for short-term investor, I think the clock is already making a decision for themselves, right? I think early buyers, they are not just buying in early. They are actually exchanging uncertainty for position, right? And this is the actual game that how each player played. So definitely the first one who made the move is the government. They are the one that, came up with the Turf City transformation.
Yeah. Then after that, the developer responded, right?
Correct. And then the plot next door actually responded.
Yeah.
Wing Tai Metro actually beat the plot next door for 15% more, and this actually helps to raise the benchmark and validate the confidence in that area.
True.
Alright, so now the buyer must respond. They can either choose to wait or enter later when there is actually more certainty, but potentially, pay for a higher cost, because, once the Turf City is more developed, I believe that, the other plots of land there, they will raise a higher benchmark. Alright, so we have the last clock, and the clock will actually determine whether this strategy works. Alright, so earlier we mentioned about how each key players actually made a move on the chess piece. So right now, whose move exactly is Dunearn House?
Yeah, if you ask me, right, I'll answer that the plot next door made the loudest move, right? So right now, the decision is handed back to Dunearn House, the developer itself.
Alright, so will the developer actually use the advantage to create a compelling price for Dunearn House buyers? Or would they use this against the neighbouring benchmark to maximize its own profit margin? So is Dunearn House a good buy or not?
Right, so if you know the answer, you can actually scan the QR code and DM us and let me know your thoughts.
Alright,
and we'll
see you in the next episode.